What is going on, everyone? My name is Jared and I am from TechWorks, and as you can see we have the S9 Plus in front of us again. So it's been a little while now. It's actually only been a week since I started using the S9 Plus, but seeing that it is so close to the S8 and S8 Plus Note 8, I figured I could do the full review on it now because I've already kind of fleshed out what's been different and what has really changed in their reimagining of the S8. So just a quick overview going over, this is the S9 Plus. It has the 6.2-inch display. It has the dual cameras in the back, the dual aperture mechanism, which is the f2.4 and I believe f1.8. Your fingerprint sensor is moved right underneath the cameras where it really should be, and you still have your heart rate and your flash and all that on the side. A thing to quickly note, when I was setting up my fingerprint now, it sets up your fingerprint all in one stroke. You just swipe it down, and I believe in 1 or 2 tries, your whole fingerprint has been read, and you're set to go. So on that, we're going to talk about, the unlocking, like with your fingerprint, with your facial, because they have changed their iris and their face unlock feature. So, of course, you can always just tap on your fingerprint. Again, it's very fast. Just do this. And there it goes. I mean, it's definitely not the fastest sensor around. I believe Huawei and OnePlus really have that under control with their fastest fingerprint sensor. But still a lot faster, a lot nicer than last year's version. Now, another thing they have is the intelligent scan, which is, as you can see right there, it looks at me similar to Face Unlock. But what it actually does is it's a combination of both the facial unlock feature and the iris scan feature, which was in the Note 8 and the S8 as before. So it combines both of them, supposedly makes it a little more secure, gives you a little more, less chance of having someone else unlock it. Now, it's probably not as secure as the Face ID for iPhone 10, but it's probably more secure than the Face Unlock of the OnePlus and just any ordinary Face Unlock of an Android phone that's just looking at your face specifically. Moving into the experience as a whole, so this has the 3500 milliamp hour battery. I did put a screen protector on it because I learned the hard way that keeping an iPhone 10 and this in the same proximity lent to little scratches on the screen. So just so you know, the stainless steel camera ring will mark up this screen. I've now learned. But I put the screen protector on it. I will be doing a white stone dome glass one, but for now this works good. Covers up nice. But anyway, I digress. So Samsung, this is the newest Android, this is the newest Samsung, and I think right out of the gate, this is the best Samsung has made. Now, people are probably going to disagree about whether or not it's the best Android. Samsung obviously has been doing a lot with its user interface, its UI, its design, how it works, all of that the past couple years. And I really, in my opinion, think that they've locked it down to be really good as far as the way the icons work, the uniformity across the interface. Everything looks really nice, really together, and finally is kind of like a cohesive unit. Now, I am kind of a die-hard Android purist, meaning that I really like how the Pixel did it, which is stock Android, but I really don't hate this skin. And I used to hate TouchWiz and like the Samsung S5, S4. TouchWiz was terrible, but it has gotten way better, and now they call it Samsung, the Samsung Experience, right? So as you can see, all the icons are shaped similar. You do have a choice to have the borders, like if you look on YouTube Studio, you have the choice to put the border around it to make every icon the same, or you can have them be their own icons. And it's easy to do that. You go into your settings up here, and you go into display, and it should be icons with frames. So right now I have with frames. You can turn them icons only, done, and now you'll see the non-Samsung ones will be as if they were on kind of like the Pixel. So if they're square, they're going to be square. If they are adaptive, they'll change and so on. Like visual voicemail from T-Mobile just has its envelope, which is more traditional of how normally Android handles that. Again, if you want to change it back, display, you go down to, I scrolled by it, icons with frames, put frames. Makes it uniformed. I like the uniformity. Talking about this, we go into edge screen. So having a Samsung now, you have the edge screen. You have all your notifications, or not notifications, you have all your little shortcuts and things on the side. Task edge, you can go right to your bookmarks, go right to taking a selfie, go right to composing. Device maintenance, how much battery life is approximated left, your memory free, your device security, all this other stuff, and you click on that, and then it'll start doing its thing. It's one of these things where I like the edge screen. I like having the availability. I just don't end up using that feature a lot. To me, that's not a make or break. And Samsung, I would say, kind of very similar to Huawei. How they do their phones is they add everything, right? So they add absolutely everything they can into the phone, and you go from there. So that's why Samsung really makes it easy for people to like, because it has so many options. So yes, you do have your headphone jack, and you do have your edge screen, your iris scanning, your fingerprint sensor, your heart rate monitor, dual cameras, quick charge. Now you have dual firing speakers. Everything. You have a digital assistance, digital assistant, whether that be Google Home or Bixby. They throw it all in there. Even way back in the day, I remember this distinctly was Smart Stay. They had a commercial on TV of someone on a plane looking at their phone, watching a video. Someone talked to them. They'd turn away. It would stop playing his video. They could talk. He'd look back and then play again. I have never gotten that to work as perfectly as they showed that, but it's still in the software. It's still there if you want to use it. So Samsung kind of falls into that category of put it all in and see what sticks. And that's fine. That's how they've been doing it for a very long time. They have the water resistance, IP68, all of that. And that's, the features list for Samsung really goes on and on. Now with Android 8, you have the quick shortcuts, add alarm, Spotify will have, what you've played last, your new bookmarks, go to my apps. So this was one thing that came up in Android 7, but Samsung never really addressed that. They had it so you could go like this, and you could bring it up, and all it would say is select item, remove from home, or disable. You actually wouldn't get your shortcuts, which never made sense to me. I like that because I'm used to using 3D Touch on an iPhone, so to me that's almost just as good. So that's still in here. Android 8 obviously brought a lot of improvements, picture-in-picture with YouTube, things of that nature. One of the biggest things people still have a problem with or say is the Samsung lag. And I'm not going to say that it won't be there. Obviously right now it's not. But even if you just watch how quickly I can scroll left to right like this, and then I go to Bixby, and it's almost as fast, but not quite. And it takes a second to load. And Bixby, supposedly they're releasing Bixby 2.0 in the next coming few months, which hopefully should bring a slew of improvements. And actually, I really hope that Apple does the same. Because right now, Google Assistant is just absolutely killing it as far as the digital assistant. Google Assistant and probably Amazon are absolutely bar none better than Siri and Bixby. But Bixby can be very specific with things it can do. So with Google Assistant, you couldn't say turn the flashlight on. With Bixby, you can. Bixby is really integrated into the core of the phone, like open notification shade, or okay, Bixby, turn on Bluetooth, or turn off Bluetooth, turn on and off Wi-Fi. Like stuff like that is what it really excels at. Now, just in my quick comparison, and I am going to do a comparison video to the iPhone 10 or Huawei Mate 10 Pro, the biggest thing for this phone is absolutely the screen. So, I love the iPhone 10 screen, which I know they did source from Samsung, but until this phone came out, I would really say the iPhone 10 screen was probably the best screen out there. Now, including other reports, this screen is by far the best. And you can easily tell that, if you crank this up to full brightness, the colors just pop like crazy. And this isn't, an edited photo. This is just a photo that I downloaded. And I have it on both of my phones, and you can easily tell the difference, especially at max brightness, because this thing does get really bright, and it gets really, really vivid. And I like that. To me, that's a big selling point for me. I love having the screen space. I love being able to look at it. The pictures look great after you take them. Now, it's going to be hard to see on some of these photos, but a lot of them, we'll use this picture of my cat Nala. Probably even in the video, you can see just how detailed. I mean, I could actually see the individual hairs on her nose, right? And that's just going towards the actual camera quality of this camera. And there's been a lot of camera comparisons going around about which is better, the S9 Plus or the iPhone 10 or the Pixel and things like that. It is going to come down to a lot based on what you prefer in a photo. Me personally, I like contrasty, vivid, saturated colors. That's just my style. When I actually use my actual DSLR camera, I make edits to have it come out that way. This camera does that a lot. Now, I will say there is certainly situations the iPhone 10 is better, and I would say overall, if I had to pick one phone, one camera to always use all the time, I would pick the Pixel 2 XL, even after using it. But that's not to say this camera is bad. This camera is by far, it's fantastic. In many situations, it can do a lot better than a lot of phones, especially with low light. The only thing that I believe that is lacking that the Pixel has is, you know, that AI processing. And yes, Samsung has 2 lenses, and they're doing a lot with that. Google still kills it with their AI processing of that image, the After Effects, the portrait mode, whatever they're doing it really well. And I think you'll see that come across to other flagships in the future. I know Huawei is starting to do the AI thing, and that's proved to be really beneficial to them. Overall, I mean, there's a lot of neat features now in Samsung's experience. Like, one of them is caller ID. So if you go to your phone, go up to your settings, and you scroll down, there is a caller ID and spam protection. And I really like this. And Google has it. Google Dialer has it in the Pixel. And this is just like some of those creature comforts that I appreciate. And if you don't have them, you're not like, oh man, I really miss that. But when you do have them and you go back to using, like, so right now concurrently I'm using this phone and the iPhone 10. And this has it baked right in with spam protection. The iPhone 10 doesn't. And it's just something that really, that I like. That to me is something that I appreciate. Everything so far though has been very fast, very smooth. Nothing, no hiccups, no hang-ups, no nothing. And one of the things that a lot of people fail to mention is I feel like there is a lot of promise to what Samsung is starting to do with like Bixby Vision. And, oh, we got an update, look at that. We'll do that. There's a lot of promise. Little things like in their calculator app, they have unit converter. I like that stuff. And on the flip side of that, though, Samsung always does a lot of duplicate apps. So they have Gallery, right? And then I use Google Photos. On the Pixel, you just have Google Photos. You have your normal Samsung calendar, and you'll probably have your Google Calendar. I think I uninstalled it. But you have that as well. You have your Samsung keyboard and Gboard. You have Chrome, and you have Samsung Internet. So it goes back and forth like that. You have Samsung Pay and Google Pay now. Things like that keep going back and forth with duplicate apps, and people might consider that bloatware. They might consider that unnecessary. But Samsung integrates it well. So if you use Samsung Internet, you can use Samsung Pass, which is basically a secure spot for all your passwords. You use your biometrics to then fill in what password is looking for. That stuff does benefit you when you start using it. If you're not involved in it, though, then you obviously don't see the benefit of that. Going over to Bixby, like this card screen, I always swipe over here probably at least once or twice a day, but I don't really know what I'm looking for, right? So they do have adverts for Bixby. Google Play Music can tell you what you want to play. You got your weather, frequently used apps. I've been lazy and only walked 50 steps today. And you have some news articles, and bottom there's always like some GIF or whatever. Spotify. This screen to me isn't very useful yet. There isn't enough stuff on here, LinkedIn. There isn't enough stuff on here to really be like, ooh, that's super useful. Like, you do have your schedule, which I don't know why it keeps coming up. It duplicates all my stuff. But it's nothing that I really am sitting there like, wow, I really can't wait to look at my Bixby News. For that, I normally go to the Google app and check out the Google News because it always has good articles there, things of that nature. So that's one thing where it's kind of redundant, but is kind of, it could be useful. It could really be useful in the future, but it just isn't quite there now. Little things like the clock app now tells you the exact time, similar to iOS and Android. Pixel 2 XL does that. Messages got a overhaul to make it look a little different. Like this one, so you have the blue, and I know you can change all of this about it, but that's changed in Android 8. Like I said, Android 8 was a bunch of creature comforts, but really this phone, for lack of a better word, is probably the most complete Samsung phone you can buy today. And I say most complete because for a couple of reasons. The Note 8, you have a very big phone and a stylus, which may or may not appeal to you. You may like it a lot. You might get it just for the stylus, or you might not. You have all of the good things about the Samsung Galaxy S8. You have wireless charging, quick charge, headphone jack. You now have dual speakers, which your speaker grill at the top for your headpiece also acts as like a tweeter, and you have your bass coming out of the bottom, and it does get pretty nice and pretty loud. You have your always-on display. You can change doing, looking at your calendar, looking at your alarms, whatever like that. You can change all about it. Your lock screen is a little more customizable this time. Swipe up, you can get the Samsung Pay, which I actually prefer Samsung Pay over Google Pay. For the one thing of Samsung Pay does work at terminals that aren't necessarily set up for contactless payments. So like for Target, for example, Target doesn't have signs up saying that, oh, it works with Apple Pay and Android Pay or Google Pay now. But one day I was sick, I was running home from work, and for whatever reason I didn't have my wallet. But I knew with the Galaxy phone I could go up, tap it, and it would still work because I had used it. Same with Lowe's Home Improvement Store. Same thing. They really don't advertise contactless payments, but this phone works, and that's a cool added benefit. And I think what Samsung is trying to start to do with their Internet of Things, their Smart Things devices, their mesh router setup, their TVs, is to really start to integrate. And you can see when I swipe down, I have all my Smart Things controls here. I have my router, I have my hub, my speaker, and my outlet, as well as my TV, all quickly set up right here. And I can quickly mirror my screen, view my TV on phone, play TV, or use it as a remote control. They have gotten rid of the IR blaster, which I did really like, but you can do that if you have a compatible TV. And they're trying to build an ecosystem that can rival Apple's. And, if you've watched other videos of mine, you know that I do like the Apple ecosystem, and the Apple ecosystem has been around for quite some time at this point. And I just don't think they're going to do it with Smart Things and TVs. I mean, they got to really go in with computers and all of that, but I just don't think they're going to. Bottom line, if you like Galaxies, if you like Samsung, you're invested in, you maybe have the Dex dock, maybe you have some fast chargers, which they do work for other devices, but maybe you are just living and breathing and bleeding Samsung. And if that's the case, this obviously is going to be the phone for you. It is the best Samsung they have right now. The Note 9 is getting speculated about now with in-screen fingerprint readers and things of that nature. And even that, I don't know if that would be enough of a sell to pick that over this. Because again, the Note gets into more of a niche sort of area of the market. But if you are just an Android fan, could I recommend this over the Pixel 2? Well, yeah, because right now this has the Snapdragon 845, it has more RAM, it has pretty solid battery life, quick charge, wireless charge, which the Pixel 2 doesn't have. It has IP68 versus IP67, again, which the Pixel is, in the IP67 range. But the biggest drawback that people will have with that is this is still Samsung. And I say that as a negative because you still have the Samsung apps. You have Bixby. You may or may not have the Samsung slowdown in several months. Carriers have this everywhere, so you can get carrier deals like crazy. You can get it at Best Buy. You can get it at Samsung.com. Every carrier is going to carry this phone. There's plenty of accessories for it. You know, that's the thing, too, when you get into phones like the Huawei, or you get into phones like Google Pixel 2, which is getting better, but there's a lot less of third-party accessory support. And right now, I'd say obviously the biggest is Apple, and everyone makes accessories for Apple, but not everyone makes accessories for like the Pixel or the Huawei Mate 10 Pro or anything like that. So you're going to get good support. I've never had to run in with Samsung support, but from what I hear with like their Samsung Premium Care is getting better. They've partnered with more retailers to be repair places, so you don't have to send your phone away. They're really trying, I'm going to say. And right now, this is probably definitely the fastest Android phone. It's probably not going to be for everyone with its skin, with its UI, with its difference in usability. If you don't like the curved edges on the screen, obviously this isn't a phone for you. The camera is certainly better than last year's, and Samsung cameras are always pretty good. I am going to do a full camera comparison. I'm going to compare the iPhone X, S9 Plus, and the Huawei Mate 10 Pro all together. I'm going to do a good camera comparison, but just from the few pictures that I've taken with the Samsung, I would say I would almost give it a 50-50 split between saying that this camera is better than the iPhone Xs, which is what I have to test right now. I don't have my Pixel to test it with, or else I would do it with that. But I would say 50% of the time, this is going to produce a better picture. I've noticed it with more detail in the shot in a lot of situations. However, with selfies, I've noticed that the iPhone X takes a more realistic shot as far as color reproduction and actual features. But I would actually really say the detail in the photo when you zoom in, I have to give it to this. And again, this is just quickly shooting two shots on auto next to each other and looking at it. You know, when I do the camera comparison, I will really try to make the shots complex, outdoors, indoors, animals, people, and really go from there to get some different detail. But I will say that the detail is really looking good in these photos. If this is the only camera you have, you're not going to be disappointed. If you're upgrading to this phone from an older phone, you know, the camera is great, the flash is great, the bokeh effect with the live focus is nice because you obviously can change the amount of blur you get afterwards. Everything about the S9 is really shaping up to be a really complete handset. You do get your headphones in the box, you get your adapters, your cord, your power cord, and your power brick all in the box. So they still give you headphones, which is nice. I think, to be honest, the 10th anniversary, the Galaxy 10, I think that's really going to be something to look forward to because they really just continue to keep making it more and more complete. And the design, I know I have a case on it, but you can't say, whether you're an Apple fan or an Android fan or whatever, you can't say that these phones don't look good. The way they have very little bezels, which they have slimmed down even more this year. The two pieces of glass design. Now, I will say I liked the coral blue of the Note better than the Galaxy here. This is more of a muted coral color, or I guess the muted blue color. But you can't say that it doesn't look stunning. It looks very impressive. It is a fingerprint magnet, the same with any other glass phone, the same with the iPhone X. But all around, it is really a great phone. It's going to continually be a great phone, and the one day when I was talking to a friend of mine at T-Mobile, he had said that most of their sales are going to be from iPhones and Samsungs, and I can honestly see why, because they continually put out complete and very good handsets. It might not be very good in one area, like, you know, it's not going to have the fastest software updates, that's for sure. It might not have the most complete software experience like the Pixel 2 will have, and it might not have the whole ecosystem integration like the iPhone has, but you're getting a phone when you get the Galaxy S9 or S9 Plus, or even the S8, S8 Plus, and Note 8 that has a little bit of everything for everybody. You want a good camera? It's got that. You want to have quick charging? It's got it. You want to have IP68 water resistance? Yep. Headphone jack? It's still got it. You want the bigger screen? It's there. You like Android? It's in there. So it brings a lot to the table. I would say it's a player in the everything field, okay? So it does everything pretty well, but I wouldn't say it does one thing exceptionally well. What I would really say is that if you're unsure about Android, if you're coming from Apple and you're thinking about the Galaxy, you know, you're not going to be disappointed with it. It's going to be great. The things you might miss are like iMessage and FaceTime and things of that nature, but Android and Samsung as a whole are getting a lot better with competing. So anyway, I know this was pretty long, 26 minutes. More of my full review on the S9. Highly recommended to someone who's upgrading from a much older Samsung. If you're switching from the Pixel, you know, know that it's not going to be the same clean Android experience, but you are getting a lot. And if you're switching from Apple, know that it is going to be a big change of pace for you, but still really good in a lot of ways. I look forward to doing more videos with it, doing a full camera comparison, and we'll see you then.